Hello, welcome to the apiary here at Metropolitan Community College on the Fort Omaha campus. My name is Tyler Magnuson. I am the horticulture specialist and culinary liaison. And today we're going to talk a little bit about and look in our hive. It is the middle of September, so we're thinking about taking some honey off, getting this hive ready for winter, and also evaluating the health of the hive. This is a really important time for the bees. When it comes to management, to make sure they have enough food stores to get through the winter, that they do not have any disease or pest problems that are really going to impact their ability to survive the winter, and that we're doing everything we can to manage moisture in the hive. Moisture is the thing we find that causes mortality in our hives most often. You can't do an autopsy of a hive per se, but when we look into hives that have died, a lot of times that we notice either mold growth, we usually notice that they have enough honey stored and that's either some disease combination is affecting them, and a lot of times that has a lot to do with moisture into the hive. So we'll be dealing with moisture management as well. So I'm just going to start popping off this hive and looking at what we got in here. One thing I did do last week was to put on a barrier to help separate honey that was ready and done from other honey that wasn't. This piece here that I'll pull off limits the bees' movement upward into the hive, but allows them to go down into the hive. And so should leave this box pretty full. We actually have a lot of little yellow jacket hornets and other bee species working in here. Looks like we do have a lot of dead bees up here that weren't able to get back down through into the hive. Sometimes that happens. Yeah, there's a lot of honeybees around me, but a lot of these little yellow jackets. And I've even seen a couple bumblebees popping around too. So we're going to take that off. So you can see on this we have a hole for the bees to go down into. And on the other side they encounter this mesh screen that really limits their ability to come up through it. And so that gives us a box that still has some bees in it, but not too many, easier to deal with that. So I'll just put this off to the side. Gonna pop off a frame here and see what it looks like in here. Take a look at their honey stores. These yellow jackets are really angry at me. Buzzing around my face. We're going to aim to make sure the bees have 2 large supers to live in and have at least 1 full, or 2 hive bodies, I should say, the bottom 2 boxes, and 1 super to use for food this winter. I can see looking in here that we don't have fully drawn frames. You see capped honey over here, but honey that's still getting, nectar that's still getting converted down to honey here that isn't totally capped. And a lot of this is actually pretty empty. There's some pollen, but bees are working on stuff in here. I see that's the same with a lot of frames in here. I'll pull a couple more out. Yeah, the number of yellow jackets in here is kind of concerning. I'm not going to go all the way down into the hive right now, just out of concern for our filming crew here. But I might be looking down there and seeing what's going on. There's even yellow jackets down in here, and the bees are very agitated. And so if they're letting yellow jackets into the hive, or they're not able to defend the hive from them, that could mean we don't have a high enough population. Maybe something's going on with the queen. It's going to make me want to look down into the hive bodies and see how the queen is laying. So if we can get this, we have little yellow jacket hornets are bright yellow and black, kind of eating up the honey they find. I'm noticing they're just kind of going around and aren't really getting, the bees aren't really attacking them like they should, or disrupting them. They're kind of moving around without getting harassed, which is not good. And I guess some of that could just be from the yellow jackets that were around as I took the top off, and maybe they're working their way down in here. But I'm going to take off another box and see what I see in that lower one. Move some stuff around. Both of these are pretty heavy, both the ones I've taken off. Probably in the 40, 50, 40, 30, 40 range as far as pounds. Means they're getting pretty full. But the first one I took off was a lot more heavier. Okay, good. Yeah, it looks like the yellow jackets are just swarming around and then landing and coming into the hive, so they're not coming in or not already in the hive, which is what I was looking for. Wanted to make sure that wasn't going on. The other thing I'm looking for right now is hive beetle, something we find in our hives a lot, especially this time of year. And hive beetle are these small black round beetles that usually live in the upper parts of the hive, or find little corners they can be in, and I haven't seen any yet, which is a great sign. What we normally do in the fall is put in a little hive beetle blaster trap. It's a little reservoir. There are a couple different models that you can buy, and you fill them with mineral oil. They have openings here that are smaller than a bee, but bigger than a hive beetle. And you just fit these in right between the frames, and can put one or two for each super and stack them up and come back later and find that the beetles love that they can get in here and bees can't, but then they drowned themselves in the mineral oil. So we find this a really effective way to control them. I'm really seeing, a lot of hornets and a lot of what's looking like other bees from another colony coming in. I'm seeing a lot of fighting. I'm seeing these bees harassing the other bees. So, and I'm experiencing a lot of like buzzing, them hitting into me. And I think that means I'm gonna think about putting the super back on and talk a little bit about the moisture management part. So we're not really disrupting this hive right now, because this is a really intense battle going on right here. So I was talking before about ways we can manage moisture in the hive. And one thing we like to do every fall is to put on an insulative blanket over the top of our box. This right here is just a piece of cloth stapled into a very, very shallow frame. And inside we put wood mulch, cedar wood mulch. And so this will just sit right on top of your frames. And in the winter, what's happening as the bees keep themselves warm while it's cold outside, they're condensating a lot of moisture inside. And so then that moisture rises up. And what this tries to do is trap that moisture and suck it out of the hive. And so it's also insulating against the cold, but it's also helping with that humidity control and lowering the humidity in the hive. When humidity gets high, that's when you find different diseases that can affect bees, fungal diseases or bacterial diseases. So that's one option we have to put on here. Some people don't use the wood mulch or don't need the moisture control and just need insulation. So another option is just having an insulative board that sits in here and can sit on top of the hive just like the wood mulch does. We find the wood mulch works just as good as far as insulation, and we like that it's helping control moisture, but that's another option you can use in there. Another thing I should say we have for insulation or for moisture control is a screened bottom board. So this board here can either be made solid or screened. I'll hold up an example of a solid board. That's what is on the bottom, what's being rested upon. The one we have over here is different in that all of that's just a screened metal. So again, we're allowing kind of that air to move through the hive and it not to get really, really humid inside. And so we'll leave that way through the winter. I'm gonna leave this on top, kind of knock some bees off of this. Our top board got stuck to our roof. The bees glued it on. Try and break that off so we can look at it. So again, in here is where I'm going to be looking for hive beetle, where we see them a lot. I don't see any. I think that means for right now I'm not going to put the beetle traps on. I think we're going to put that on and call that good for right now. I know our film crew is not feeling that great. I'm not feeling too great about this hive continuing to get attacked right now. And give him some safety of their box is going to be important. One last thing that we can do to help bees, especially now when you're thinking about this colony kind of dealing with this harassment from other different species, is putting this entrance reducer board on. It just fits right in between the main hive body and the screened bottom board, and helps limit the size of that opening. So we do this in the spring when we get bees in. We kind of shut them in their hive and allow them only a little way in and out. And that kind of keeps them in that hive and doesn't cause them to all leave and find a different home. We do it in the summer, in the fall, when we see a weak hive that's maybe fighting off other hives. And we'll put this in so that the bees of that hive only have a small area they need to defend. They don't need to defend this whole wide open space. And we also use this in the winter to help control the airflow through the hive and not allow for a lot of air to come in and out through that space. So I'll just slide this in today. I'm going to use this opening here, the wider one, instead of the smaller one, and just slide that in there. In a month, as it gets colder, I'll put a metal guard over this called a mouse guard that will have holes and is screwed into there, the face of the hive body, and that will stop mice from burrowing in. Mice love kind of the warm, sweet interior of the hive to make a nest and have their home. And sometimes you'll find mice that chew their way in there. And so that metal will help protect against that. I'm excited we got these frames off. We're going to be processing these in class our non-credit class that you're a part of. And excited to get that honey. We'll need to take that. I like using a leaf blower to blow the bees out of that area and get it in a freezer to freeze out any bees that were left inside there. Yeah, not a perfect move through the hive today, but you never know what happens when you start opening it up. And we'll be able to come back next week and do some more things in here. And especially as we get towards October, November, be helping try to seal this hive off. And I'll be demoing some of those insulative blankets or tar paper wrappings in class as well. So we can talk more about that during our live Zoom session.